It's Dr. Snake here, so let's get into willpower, exerting will. So there is, so I've got to stabilise that. Pendulum, stay still. Now start spinning. Yeah, round, round, go. That's it. Okay, slow down. Now, let's go left to right. Left to right, there we go. Left to right. Okay, now slow, slow. Now start going the other way. For me, that's anti-clockwise. Round and round we go. Okay, now time to stabilise. 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 Steady, 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 steady. There we go. It's pretty steady for me. Stay steady, steady. Now, which way should we go? For me, let's go anti-clockwise. Let's go round and round. Okay, now steady, steady. Take it. And then left to right, left to right, left to right. Swing, swing like a pendulum in a clock. There we go. Okay, ease it down. Actually, let's start spinning again, round and round for a bit of fun. Round and round. Okay, steady as you go. Take it down. Okay, come to a stop. Come to a stop. There we are. There we go. Steady. There we go. So yeah, so there we go. Pendulum. It's a good will training tool, actually, because yeah, many would say that, you know, there's micro muscles going on, very tiny, almost imperceptible, which really makes little odds to me, because if we take straight up dowsers, then, you know, either they've got like twigs or they've got, you know, a couple of coat hangers quite often, you know, and you know, so they discover water and like, are the divining rods magical? I'd say they're a pendulum. Are they a tool? Most definitely. Arguably the dowsers, they it could be them, you know, like the deep part of them, call it subconscious, right brain, as good metaphors for it, but it doesn't really matter. You know, it's like, who really cares how it works? Just do it. One of the things with me is that, you know, I'd very much use it as a will training tool. And, you know, simply, I tell you why, because I can do that. You see, this is the thing. I don't think I'm really any good at finding lost things or water or something like that, whatever you might do with dowsing. In fact, it's exerting will, indomitable will. And it seems that that's kind of my position in life, really. But then, you know, on what people call psychic, I would always say, no, about me. But, you know, it's, so with me, I usually just know things. There isn't any rigmarole or anything. It's just, I know. You know, like people are making up a story or lying. It's, you know, very, very quick at knowing what's going on. I would actually possibly call that nano speed thinking, and actually, left brain as a metaphor. But that's very much me, you know, it's very different, you know, because I've known, you know, quite a few psychics and mediums, spiritualists, you know, clairvoyants and stuff, male and female. And yeah, I remember one chap, he was going, well, you sort of do all this, but it's just like there. You know, it's like, I said, well, maybe, yeah, I don't, who knows, but yeah. And so it's very different. It's just like every day, like having a normal conversation and just knowing without any ado, you know, nothing, just like, oh, well, what's going on there? Is this and this? And, you know, it's strange. But it's, I don't see it as strange, you know, I just do it. Because I'm not one for thinking, yeah, I mean, a lot of people would probably say I'm quite, you know, intellectual and all the rest of it, you know, but, with things in life, I just get on with them. I just do them. You know, I don't really, you know, so I'm an odd combination, actually, you know, it's just, no, don't think about it, just do it. And, so that's curious. But anyway, we just saw a little bit of pendulum going on because I thought, why not? I brought it with me. Going to do some magic in a while when I finish this video, before I go home, because why not do it here in the woods near West Stow. But talking of mediums, you know, psychics, clairvoyants, now some of them are kind of, well, I mean, I'm sure there are so-called frauds, but I don't know. I mean, I think there's just some that are kind of annoying, you know, as simple as that, you know. Most of the ones I knew were very, I thought they were very nice. But interestingly, I'm hearing this from a few sources of, you know, actual, you know, people that are, you know, self-declared, but they don't go on about it, psychics. They don't sort of really go on about it. And there's a lot of people having feelings, you know, that are kind of sensitive, if you like, intuitives, feelings that, of something coming, something absolutely massive, you know, and they'll talk about like a tsunami. Whether they mean weather, I don't know. It could be weather and just everything, which, you know, makes you think, God, you know, World War III or something. You know, I mean, I have to see, I'm a little bit different on that. You know, I most definitely have done since maybe 2022. I very much thought 2025 would be a pivotal moment. And it wasn't really thinking, I mean, because obviously we've had some dramatic events, you know, more recently Iran, which is crazy beyond belief, you know, because you're like hitting fairly reasonable people, you know, that are Islamic. I think some of them are quite Sufi. So, you know, you can work things out, okay. But there wasn't a problem anyway. It's like, they've got atomic weapons. Yeah, well, so has China, America. You know, it's like Israel has, you know. And Iran's probably not despotic, you know. It could happen. But, well, then again, Trump, you know, I mean, what's he if not a despot? You know, he's kind of a madman. And I don't mean that in any, you know, it's like, I don't care. You know, I'm not, you know, because I've never supported any politician or political party because there's no point, you know, at all. It's, you know, I think the baseline is pretty corrupt and then it can be very corrupt, but it's very rarely honest, you know. So it's like, I've never voted because I don't want to encourage them. You know, your vote encourages it, you know, I don't do it. I don't support any of them. So if I say Trump's a despot, you know, if anyone supports him, I'm like, don't get upset, you know, it's like, you know, so I'm not for that. But so any country can go mad. I mean, China, pardon me, is super, well, you know, you've got the philosophic Taoism, Confucius and all that, but they still had Maoist China. It just was a meme that just took off, you know, and Trump's that as well, you know, it's like kind of a crazy religious Armageddon type meme. And that's what we expect because the world has always had cults and there's no reason to think that governments can't be cultish, which you've got with old Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance. I mean, they're absolutely brilliant in terms of crazed cult leaders, you know. It's but what I will say is we don't want 177 schoolgirls killed like was done with the first strike on Iran. So, you know, basically war crimes, not good. We're coming to get you one day, you know, because one would, you know, there's no justification for that. You could say, oh, it was an accident. Yeah, well, you don't make accidents like that. You know, we're still coming to get you, you know. And, but something is coming, you know, and you've got you had so much, you know, Epstein, Iran. No, it's absolutely wild. And of course, for me, the big one was the drone flap 2024. That was a major event, and they've carried on, as I've said, Barksdale Air Base, Louisiana, a couple of months ago. They didn't do anything. It's like, oh, drones up there. Oh yeah. No, it's like, no, there's something going on there. And so I think the sensitives, you know, by that I mean, of course, you know, psychics and so on. The Victorian word's good, like sensitives, you know, that's, you know, kind of a good one. You know, so they're getting real serious anxiety, you know. It's like, you know, I find myself having to be, you know, what's the word, empathetic. Yeah, well, you know, I try. But with the, you know, I mean, I'm kind of joking. But you see, the thing is, I'm like, yeah, great, bring it on. So you can see, you know, I have to sort of not laugh like I am now and think, well, yeah, at least it'll be a bit of fun. But so basically on, you know, well, we don't want nukes. Probably not going to happen. But there's other types of weapons going on as well, much more advanced. But I don't think it's just the human realm. This is the thing, is I don't know how many people would agree with me, but when you look at it, the sheer madness, and if you go back historically, which I won't go into in laborious depth, but, you know, you've had the UFOs were previously the Fae, the fairies, the jinn, goes back to time immemorial, no doubt before humans. And, you know, and then you've got the sort of, you know, the satanic and all of that, where actually, in truth, when you get into it, it's like, yeah, I'm with Satan, because the God was of the Bible, or the gods of the Bible, they were kind of despotic. They were really, really terrible. But then so were a lot of these gods, you know, like Zeus wasn't exactly fun. But yeah, they killed people. They didn't care, you know, sort of, in the Bible, you know, burn people and sniff the burning flesh, because it sounded like it was a bit of a drug, actually. You get the impression as well they were rampantly into alcohol, you know. And, you know, I mean, obviously, it's quite funny because, you know, the churches are like, what are you talking about? That's not God. Well, yeah, it is actually. You just got to read the Bible and the early translations. And, you know, from Mauro Biglino, who was Catholic Publishing House, one of their main freelance translators. But yeah, he left in the end because he was saying, look, it's aliens or it's whatever, you know, it's basically non-human intelligences. So it's quite wild. And so we got all this going on, and basically, I think I said, like the other video I made, yeah, what you've got is the old world, which had the science of magic. It was, you know, that's what was going on. And we've had 300 years of science, and the problem is the magic hasn't gone away. So, you know, it could be argued that the old gods like Zeus, you know, Aphrodite, Odin, Thor, Freya, you name them, including the Elohim gods, the God of the Bible, they were gods. Nasty, no, but a lot of them were. And so it could be argued that they're all real. At least, you know, I'm not necessarily saying ETs. I mean, that's possible, but I think it's more likely some form of interdimensional beings that share the planet with us, you know, on a slightly different plane, can manifest and possibly can interbreed, which, you know, the Bible says, you know, the fallen angels interbred with the humans. So that, you know, this world is kind of probably not what it seems. And, you know, it's okay. So that sounds crazy. A congressman in America, he's from Tennessee, and he's one of these, he's old school. He's probably like 70 or something. He's old school. And kind of talks a little bit Tennessee, you know, he comes, I kind of like the way he comes across. And basically, he's had briefings because of this disclosure, and he can't tell you, but he said what he's seen, and this is a congressman, would, well, he put it mildly, would keep the whole world awake at night, you know. Well, it would, if the old world of gods, demons, spirits, elementals, you name it, is actually real, and we pushed it away with 300 years ago with the science, which is really, really recent compared to aeons, and suddenly it's like, oh, by the way, it was all real. Well, it freak people out. And his name, the congressman, believe I've got it right, is Tim Burchett. I believe Tim Burchett. Hopefully my memory serves me correctly. And he's just kind of saying this stuff. It would keep the whole world populace awake at night. And what he's seen, I think he did refer to sort of interbreeding and stuff going on with what, you know, is purportedly, according to the authorities, aliens. But that word, I think the big cover-up has very much been, oh, by the way, the old world was real and we can't really deal with it, and it's not very benevolent towards us, and quite understandably. So if that's what I'm saying is more or less the case, you can't blame these non-human intelligences from maybe making something huge happen. And you know, because humans are not good. You know, I'm sure you are watching this, but generally, because you can't control the big stuff, you know. But so 1958, USA, shortly afterwards the USSR, were detonating atom bombs in the ionosphere, apparently for meteorological research. Okay, but would you do that? Because wouldn't even the most dim-witted person think, yeah, well, could that affect climate and would just like be destroyed? Hurricanes, tsunamis, and just it ends, you know? I mean, really, and that went on into the 1960s. I mean, there's a fair bit of hardware been thrown into the ionosphere. And then you've got HAARP, which is the later technology, HAARP, HAARP is researching. It's, well, basically, anyway, is big facility in Alaska, and it's basically hitting the ionosphere, warming it with electromagnetic pulses, that kind of thing. And you think, well, you haven't stopped. And you talk about climate change. But, I mean, why would you tamper with such powerful forces that could destroy the world? Now, if you think about it differently with what I'm saying, you know, about maybe the old world was real, non-human intelligences, 1958 could have been an attack on them. Some reason the ionosphere, you know, I mean, remember that UFOs seen in the sky also go under the sea and land. But if we, you know, if we sort of think about this, could it be it was an attack and the HAARP system is carrying on? Part of the reason for the attack might be to bring down craft so you could recover them, back engineer them to try and try and get a level playing field with Earth technology. Because you're paranoid, you think these superior non-human intelligences are a threat to national defence. There hasn't really been proof of that. I mean, it's tricky. Let's just go back to the fairy lore, the Fae of Britain, England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, etc. Loads of stories, and round here, of the Fae. And so there was an odd relationship with the non-human intelligence. It was like you'd be scared of them, but not everyone was. Because you had magicians and whatnot that kind of dealt with them, communed with them, got things done by making deals, like the Devil's Pact. And, the lure of power, like Christopher Marlowe's Faustus play. He was a contemporary of Shakespeare, but he died very young. I think it was in Dartford in Kent. He just copped it in a bar, but he was probably causing trouble, who knows. But so he was known as Kit Marlowe. And so, the idea of selling your soul to the devil, that was very pronounced. And of course, communion it just went on up to the age of science and carried on. But it slowly got marginalised, that the majority of the populace just think that's stupid. And yet it's here. It's right here now. But, it's a tricky thing, because people did get abducted, just like the UFOs. People just disappeared off the face of the earth, purportedly to fairyland, the land of the Fae. And maybe it's pretty cool. Maybe I'd be off now. I mean, there's a Neolithic mound about a mile cross country there, maybe go through the portal and think, nah, I'm off. But yeah, so it's a tricky relationship, and all the stuff that you think is quaint folklore, like people, stopping milk from spoiling or something, that kind of thing. And they'd leave offerings and all sorts of things for the fairies to keep them sweet. And you think, it's just like belief. They just believed in stuff that's not true or something. Just like Zeus and Aphrodite, it's like, it's all been in our face. But very rarely has anyone said, what if it was absolutely 100% real, in the sense of what we perceive, whatever they actually are is another thing. It's how, our perceptions, but, it's like, what if? And so, yeah, and if you think, going back to, I don't know, when, like witchcraft and stuff, like in modern times, when you had Gerald Gardner and co, 1950s and things, and then the 70s with New Age, paganism, which all of that is quite interesting, because if you said to a neo-pagan, what if they're absolutely real? And, some might be, yeah, I think they are, I'm cool with that. But then again, if confronted, it could be pretty terrifying. Like the great god Pan, from ancient Greek. I mean, in the woodlands, like here. I mean, panic comes from that. So when you encounter Pan, it's pretty fearful. I kind of like Pan. And so I think this is what's happening. I really do. I think it is all real. So much points to that. And I do gather that that's the thinking, really, of like Jacques Vallée, the French scientist, and how put off American scientists. I mean, I think they've actually arrived. And the missing General McCaslin from his home in Albuquerque, someone very involved, apparently, with the UFO thing over a long period, possibly crash retrievals, he did say to Tom DeLonge of the To the Stars Academy, originally co-founder of Blink-182, the rock band, and Peter Lavender, the researcher author, I think McCaslin, I'm going to say a decade ago, maybe a bit longer, actually said, well, always guarded, but said, yeah, look, how much do you know about the Greek myths? Look closely. And it was almost like he was giving them hints, and at least I take it that he was saying, look, it's all real. And, you know, I mean, Zeus might not appear and say, I am Zeus, because we don't know what it is. And it was of the time, ancient Greece. Yeah, who knows? You know, names, probably arbitrary, or they change. I don't know. Well, we don't know. In the past, it was people lived with all this and they had ways of dealing with it. I mean, yeah, sure, people did get abducted, people disappeared off the face of the earth. Sometimes bad things happened. But they had, you know, mechanics, if you like, to deal with them. Partly kind of rituals, sort of things like offerings. Yeah, there's really a technology of the past that's not like ours, that was, you know, because we seemingly, I would say, share this earth with others. And, yeah, and so you probably do need to look at the past. I mean, I think there may well be no choice, that science has got to change totally. I mean, it's very staid. There might be good stuff comes out of it. It's slow, it's staid. It's probably going to have to encompass magic again. So that means the scientists will change. The real diehards will just go, and there'll be new ones. Yeah, so it's got to change. But as to what's coming, basically, if I'm right, the 1958 atom bomb detonating in the ionosphere was an attack, and HAARP is an attack, then we are probably at war, but for some reason or other we haven't been seriously attacked. And so the war it's kind of weird. You've got Iran going on, still Ukraine, and it may be some other war, a metaphysical war. I mean, it looks that way to me. I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but I pretty much come to that conclusion. I think that's what's going on. What do we do? Well, actually, one thing to do, very definitely, because we don't know what it is, you know, aliens or ETs, non-human intelligences, certainly, ultra-terrestrials, plasma, and, you know, it might all be the same thing. We just don't know. But what to do is, like, Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, who's very much the UFO thing for like decades, and he's been pushing for disclosure forever, and he's worth looking at. You take him as you will. But the one thing that I think is good about him, well, I mean, a lot is actually, it's just, you know, you don't know who you can trust or not in that field. But really good thing is, I think it's CE5 protocol, Close Encounters 5 protocol, which is basic meditation, bit like remote viewing, but remote connecting to non-human intelligence, going in peace to it. So that's a really good thing to do. And they do get manifestations. One man got healed of some hearing complaint he'd had for decades. So I think it was hearing, or I don't know, it was something like that. And he was completely cured after a manifestation out in the desert with Stephen Greer and a group of CE5 people. So it was absolutely, you know, that was contact. You know, it was very psychic. I mean, this is the thing. It wasn't like, you know, a 1950s alien from a film kind of thing. It was strange. I don't know whether it was mantis looking, but it was, yeah, so it was much more in that other realm. And so Yeah, so I think making contact is good. Whether if we look at old world, where the manifestations change, because you could just think Zeus, Aphrodite, Odin, and all that, Thor, Freya. But it's hard to say. That was a place in time. And what have we got now? So all you can do is explore, make contact in peace. They call it, I forget what they call it, whether it's like UFOs. It's not summoning, because summoning is too Lord of the Manor. You'll do what I say. So it's calling, communing. And so, yeah, meditative process, and just let your attention go here and now even, and see if there's any contact to be made. You can send it up into the cosmos, which is what the CE5 does. It's almost like GPS, home in. And you could say, well, how does that work if it appears? Well, because it's in an instant, with quantum physics, you've got entanglement and, so the potential is absolutely instant, like make a communication now, woof, straight in. So you just keep your mind open, don't worry about the speed of radio waves, because it's not that. So I think, communion, but we don't know what's going on, because I'm sure no one watching this would have approved of detonating atom bombs in the ionosphere and heating it via HAARP. It's like, don't risk it, because this is such a powerful system, nature and weather. Don't risk it. So it's craziness. I think it must have been an attack, and remains so. And so what we've got to do is make contact in peace. So there's enough of the let's say the humans doing that, and whomever else is here that might wish to do the same, is making contact. And so I think that's number one. I think that's where Stephen Greer, I tend to think he's not CIA or anything, actually. Is he a blagger? Well, he's been one for 30 odd years, if he is. So we don't really know, but I think he's the more reliable, to be honest, because Lou Elizondo was former CIA, and the question would be, do they ever retire truly? And I know there's funding gone to him from sources that suggest he's still being funded. So who knows? Limited hangout disclosure stuff. So we don't know, but definitely I think Stephen Greer is on the right track, is to communicate. And I wouldn't worry about too much ado. I would just do it and see what happens. Just do whatever feels right. Intuition. Don't read books. You could look at what Stephen Greer's put out for CE5 and then just do it your own way. I've had pals that were always calling UFOs and luminous orbs appeared, and I've done it. And I think the key is making the right kind of contact. And it might prove to be the most critical thing that we can do, if indeed I'm right.